morning, ma'am.
Good morning. Sit down.
Thank you, ma'am.
Now today we are going to study something about nutrition and nutritive value of various food items. You know, we are consuming a variety of food items in our daily diet. For example, you are consuming something else in the breakfast, you are consuming something else in the lunch and different in the dinner. Now, can anybody tell me in the class what are the functions of the food? Why do we take in food? If we don't take food, what will happen? Yes, Rahul?
Ma'am, it provides energy to our body. It helps in the growth and development of the body.
Yes, he said food provides us energy. Do you know what is energy? For what purpose we need energy?
And to do work, to do any sort of work.
Yes, any other functions of the food?
The food also provides necessary warmth.
Necessary warmth, maintains body temperature. Anything else about it? Yes, Simi? Any other function of the food?
Ma'am, it helps in our daily life work only.
It helps to grow. Yeah, it helps to grow. Yes, it helps to grow. It helps to provide energy. Now, we eat a variety of food items. For example, we consume rice, we consume bread, we consume butter. In spite, we are consuming pulses, cereals, fruits and vegetables. Now, these food items, they contain a number of nutrients in them. Now, what are nutrients? Now, nutrients. Nutrients are the components of the food which help to grow, which help to maintain the body, which help to repair the worn out tissues, and they also provide in meeting the energy requirements. Now, nutrients. If we talk about nutrients, which nutrients are present in the food items that we are consuming? For example, there are 6 in number. Number 1, carbohydrates. Number 2, fats. Number 3, proteins. Number 4, minerals. Number 5, vitamins. And number 6, water. Now, one thing I want to tell you about nutrients is, out of these 6, the first 5, they are called as nutrients, but the 6th one, that is water, it is a component of the daily diet, but it is not a nutrient. It is not called as a nutrient because it does not help us to grow, it does not provide any energy, or it does not help to remain healthy, but it is an essential component. Without water, the tissues will undergo dehydration. Tissues will undergo dehydration, they will dry up. Because you know 2/3 of the body is mainly water, and it is present in the water. Water is present in the body as a part of plasma, blood plasma, and it is a component of the interstitial tissue fluid. Now, and it is also present inside the cells also. Let us talk about carbohydrates. Now, carbohydrates, as the name indicates, they are hydrates of carbon. They are hydrates of carbon, and they contain 3 elements: carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. We call them as hydrates of carbon because the ratio of oxygen and hydrogen in carbohydrates is same as that is found in water. Now, Pratibha, what is the ratio of hydrogen to oxygen? Hydrogen to oxygen in water?
2:1.
2:1. Very good. Sit down. In carbohydrates, we represent carbohydrates by the general formula CnH2nOn. This is the general formula where n is any number, and these carbohydrates are further classified. Before we study the classification, we should know about the functions of carbohydrates. Now, the carbohydrates provide mainly, they are the sources of energy. They are energy sources, and 80% of the energy requirement, 80% of the energy requirement is fulfilled from the carbohydrates. No doubt fats also provide energy, but we should depend more on carbohydrates than fats. Now let us talk about the classification of carbohydrates. The carbohydrates are basically classified into number 1, monosaccharides. Monosaccharides are simple sugars. These monosaccharides are simple sugars. They cannot be hydrolyzed further. They cannot be further hydrolyzed. For example, glucose, fructose, and the formula for glucose and fructose is similar, C6H12O6. Then second type of carbohydrate are the disaccharides or compound carbohydrates, or we also call them as oligosaccharides. Under oligosaccharides, lactose, sucrose, and maltose sugar. Now these compound or oligosaccharides, they are obtained by condensation of 2 or more monosaccharide units. For example, sucrose. Sucrose, which is mainly present in the table sugar, it is a product of 1 glucose and 1 fructose, that is C6H12O6 plus another molecule, because glucose and fructose, they are isomers, they have the same molecular formula. So glucose plus fructose, by the condensation of these 2 molecules, we get sucrose. And the formula of sucrose is C12H22 and O11. Now if you condense, now there is a question. If you condense these 2 molecules of having the same molecular formula, why the formula is not C12H24O12? What is the reason? Can anybody tell me in the class? Anyone? Okay, no problem. During the condensation of these 2 molecules, 1 water molecule is eliminated, because these 2 molecules, when they are joined by means of a bond, and for the formation of the bond, 1 molecule of water is eliminated. So there is a loss of 1 water molecule. That's why the ultimate formula comes to be C12H22O11. Then finally, third type of carbohydrates. Third type of carbohydrates are polysaccharides. Polysaccharides are the compound carbohydrates. They are complex carbohydrates. They are further classified into storage polysaccharides, and structural. The structural polysaccharides, storage polysaccharides, for example, glycogen, and structural polysaccharides, cellulose. Glycogen and starch, they are storage polysaccharides. Now these complex or the compound polysaccharides, they are obtained by the condensation of many units of simple sugars. Now this glycogen, it is stored in the muscle fibers, skeletal muscle fibers, for the purpose of providing extra energy during exertions, and glycogen is also stored in the liver cells. And during emergency conditions means when the diet is deficient in carbohydrate, basically starch or sugar, then this extra glycogen in the liver, it is reconverted back into glucose. It comes in the blood and ultimately provides energy. Now, as I told you, they are mainly energy sources. Now this carbohydrate, the main energy source is glucose. Glucose is an instant source of energy also. In case some patients also, we provide glucose in the form of drip. Those who are not capable of eating through their mouths, it is an instant source of energy. Now, why do we call it as a fuel? You know, fuels provide energy. So it acts as a biofuel. It is oxidized. It is oxidized in the body tissues. And you know, during oxidation, a compound combines with oxygen, and the products, let us write down. The equation for oxidation of glucose is glucose plus oxygen. The products are carbon dioxide plus water molecules and plus energy. Now, as we know, we are eating a variety of food items. So, suppose how do we say that cereals contain starch, or how do we say various fruits like banana, fruits like banana, apples, they contain sugars in them. How do we say? So, we have certain tests. We can perform certain tests by taking any food item which we think that it is rich in particularly, say starch. We can test using iodine solution. So, you want to ask anything? Any student?
Ma'am, why are carbohydrates known as biofuels?
Carbohydrates, as I already told you, they are called as biofuels because they are just like they are oxidized or they are burnt in the body tissues to liberate energy. Now, suppose for example, we have a solution, we have a apple solution, and let us find out whether it contains sugar in it or not. So for this purpose we perform a very simple test, and here for performing the test we need certain reagents, and this is Benedict's reagent. Benedict's reagent, it contains cupric ions. So glucose is a reducing sugar. Glucose is a reducing sugar, and it will reduce cupric ions present in Benedict's reagent to cuprous ions, and we will see the color change. So for this, we take the crushed food item. For the purpose of performing the test, we add small amount of Benedict's reagent. Yes, Simi, what color do you find?
Now it's in bluish or greenish.
So about
giving now.
bluish or greenish color. Sit down. Now let us find out on heating. When we heat the mixture of the food item containing glucose and Benedict's reagent, the color should change to reddish brown. Can you see the color change?
Yes, ma'am.
So, on adding Benedict's reagent to a foodstuff containing glucose and then on heating it, if the color changes from bluish to reddish brown, and this color also, if a foodstuff contains more amount of sugar in it, the color will be dark reddish brown, and slightly orange, that shows the amount of the sugar is less. So this is a confirmatory test. So we can suppose if we perform the same test with the say egg albumin. This is egg albumin dissolved in water. So we will see that it will give a negative test. Negative test means on adding Benedict's reagent it will turn blue in color. Sorry, but on heating the color will not change to this color. So that is a negative test. That means this food item does not contain any sugar in it. So in this manner we can find out for starch also. This is iodine solution. If we add any food item containing starch, if you add iodine solution, the color will immediately turn to blue-black. So if color changes to blue black, that indicates the food stuff contains starch in it. Now let us talk about the calorific value of carbohydrates. Anybody know, Satish, what is the calorific value?
What are reducing sugars?
Yes, reducing sugars are the simple sugars. Simple sugars, as I told you, which are simple sugars? Which are simple sugars?
The simple sugars are monosaccharides.
Monosaccharides. We call them as simple sugars because they cannot be further hydrolyzed. Your question is, will you repeat the question?
Please define reducing sugars.
Yes. Reducing sugars are monosaccharides. Glucose and fructose, they are reducing sugars because they can reduce cupric ions present in the reagent to the cuprous ions. So that's why we call them as cupric ions. Sit down.
Thank you.
Now fats. So how do fats also are the components of the food? They also contain three elements which are present in carbohydrates, that is carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. So how do they differ from carbohydrates then? If they contain the same elements in them, how do they differ from? Yes, anybody? Yamini? Do you know the difference? Regarding in terms of oxygen, number of oxygen atoms.
Ma'am, oxygen is less in fats
Very
than
good.
carbohydrates.
Fats contain less percentage of oxygen in them, and fats are also sources of energy, but we should depend more on carbohydrates in the diet for the purpose of providing energy than on fats. The reason is because for the oxidation of fats, more oxygen will be needed, but for the oxidation of carbohydrates, less percentage of oxygen will be needed. Now fats not only provide energy, now they have higher calorific value. Now what are the tests? How will you identify that this particular food item contains fats? Fats are not only present in egg yolk or butter or ghee, they are also present in fatty, for example, certain seeds also. For example, mustard oil seeds, mustard seeds or sunflower seeds, etc. Now if you rub a seed, oil containing seed in a piece of paper, you will find that it provides a translucent spot through which we can see. Now for example, now see, this is an oil, this is oil, this is a very easy test for the fats. If you see this, if you observe this piece of paper, now if you see, look at the portion where I have applied oil, what do you find? Yes, Deepshika? Can you see some difference in the part of the paper where oil is absent and the other where the oil is
And where you have put the oil.
applied oil. So this is a very good test for the oils. And another test,
Why it changes to translucent?
translucent, because of this oil only. Oil. This is a feature of the oil that they produce. If suppose if there is a spill on your clothes also, what do you see? You find some oily spots on the clothes also. That is it. Now this oil also, we can perform some other test also for the oil. Now this is acetone. Acetone is an organic solvent. Now these oils, which are fats, they are soluble in organic solvents. Let us see whether it is miscible or not. Miscible means soluble. Let us shake it well. Now, if you add water to oil, are they miscible with each other? Yes, Mrinal?
Ma'am, if we add water to oil, ma'am, we can see that they both get separated. Ma'am, we can see either water gets up and or oil gets down. Ma'am, they both are separated.
Now, you are saying that whether oil will be up or water. Now, only oil will form an superficial layer, because oil is lighter. Oil is lighter than water, so it will form a layer above water. Now you can see these two test tubes. In this test tube I had added oil plus acetone. Acetone is an organic solvent, and in this test tube I have added water to oil, and we can see two separate layers.
Yes.
Can you recognize? Sit down please. Sit down. You can see two separate layers of oil. Yes, Abhimanyu? Can you see two separate layers? Yes, sit down. So here if you see no separate layer is seen, that means fats or the oils, they are soluble in organic solvents. They are insoluble in water. Now the fats, they are, as I told you, they are sources of energy, plus they provide warmth to the body, and they act as subcutaneous fat. Subcutaneous means, sub means below, cutaneous means skin. So they give shape to the body, and another point is they provide protective cushions around some internal vital organs, for example kidneys, for example eyeballs, for example brain. So that provides protection to these organs, and they absorb, they form shock-proof, shock-absorbing cushions around these organs and prevent any damage to these organs. Now proteins, in addition to carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, they contain a very important element, that is nitrogen. So proteins contain in them carbon, hydrogen, oxygen and nitrogen. Some proteins also contain in them sulfur also. Now proteins are macromolecules. Macromolecules. Yes, Lokesh, what do you mean by macromolecules?
Macromolecules mean large molecules that are big in size.
Yes, very good. Sit down.
Thank you, ma'am.
Now proteins, as I told you, they are made up of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen and plus nitrogen. In addition, some of the proteins may also contain sulfur in them. For example, egg yolk. Now let us talk about the sources of proteins, because proteins are very important for us. Now best sources, basically we divide the sources of proteins into two classes, two categories, plant proteins and animal proteins. Among plant proteins, soya bean is the best source of protein, plus pulses are sources of proteins, and among animal proteins, fish, meat, milk and milk products, eggs, they are best sources of proteins. Now, why do we call animal proteins as primary proteins and plant proteins as secondary proteins? Yes, anybody in the class? Yes, Simi?
Because they have protein in them, due to that one only.
Okay, sit down. Rinal?
Because in animal protein, more amount of amino acids are present in it, while in plant proteins, less amount of amino acids are present, and also the animal protein can provide more amount of energy to the body.
Now, if a food item contains proteins, how can we test its presence? For example, now this is egg albumin. I have egg albumin dissolved in water. Now, if you take this egg albumin, now let us add
So egg is contained in water.
yes, egg albumin plus water, and this is sodium hydroxide. Sodium hydroxide and alkali. Let us add sodium hydroxide to the food item containing protein. Do you see any color? Yes, Simi?
Ma'am, yes, it is getting a little bit.
Is it producing any color?
Ma'am, it's right on.
It's no, it's colorless. Sit down. Yes, Lokesh? This is copper sulfate. What is its color?
Blue.
Blue. After adding sodium hydroxide to the food item, now we are going to add a few drops of copper sulfate. Yes, Manas? What color change do you observe now?
It is not purple and blue.
Yes, it turns purple. So if this color, purple color, is produced on adding sodium hydroxide first and then on adding copper sulfate, few drops of copper sulfate, if you get purple color, that indicates the presence of proteins in a food item. This is a test for the proteins. Simultaneously, there are some other tests also. This particular test, in which we have added sodium hydroxide and copper sulfate, this is called as burette test. There is one more test for protein, that is called as xanthoprotein test.
Ma'am, the vitamin that color is not dissolving in the whole solution, ma'am.
It will slowly dissolve. If you observe, is it dissolved?
Yes.
Now let us talk about minerals and vitamins. Now minerals. Now do you know minerals? Why they are called as minerals? Why do we call them as minerals? Yes, Simi?
Because they're also the elements or the
Because they are mined from they are available in the earth, or they are present in the soil, they are present in water. Sit down. Now these minerals, we need a variety of minerals in our diet. For example, we need calcium, we need phosphorus, we need magnesium, zinc, iodine, etc. Iodine also, and iron. Now these minerals, do we obtain as such? For example, we need sodium. Do we eat sodium as such? No, we do not eat sodium as such. But we obtain minerals in the form of their compounds. For example, sodium chloride. Sodium chloride provides us sodium. It simultaneously it also provides chloride ions also. Now these minerals, just like carbohydrates, fats and proteins, they also play an important role in the growth and development of the body, and they help in protecting the body from various diseases, particularly vitamins. Now these minerals are needed in small quantities. They are not needed in large quantities by the body, but they are needed in small quantities. Let us talk about a few of the minerals. For example, iodine. Iodine is a very important mineral which is needed for the production of the thyroxine hormones. Now, vitamins basically we classify into two classes. Number one, water soluble vitamins, and second class, fat soluble vitamins. One, two, three, four, five, six. Out of these six, vitamin B and C, they fall under the category of water soluble. The rest four vitamins, A, D, E and K, they are fat soluble. Now they are also needed in smaller quantities, and they are mostly present in the fruits, vegetables, particularly because they are destroyed on heating. So we should always try to eat salad or fruits, raw fruits and vegetables. They are best sources of vitamins. By this now we have realized the importance of various components in the diet. And what is balanced diet? A balanced diet which contains all these nutrients in sufficient, adequate amount, so that we can remain healthy. And we should not depend on costly food items. We have to take care of the nutritive value of various food items, and we should not suffer from malnutrition. If we are consuming adequate diet, we are including a variety of food items. We should include a variety of food items which must contain carbohydrates, proteins, fats, minerals, vitamins and water also. Then we will never suffer from malnutrition.